I got to thinking the other day about blind people, people who are born blind. How does a blind person conceive of this concept, this notion that people talk about regarding sight, vision? What is that? How do you describe a color to a blind person or depth? I guess they can, perceive depth in their own way. But somebody who has never encountered, never had the capacity to see visually, how does their sense of the world work? I mean, internally, how do they process that? How does the brain manage that? And I got to thinking, what if the human species had no eyes? What if nobody could see and the concept of sight and vision was completely unknown? Imagine that nobody would have any concept of stars. There would be a period of time during the day when it was warmer than a period of time where it's cooler, but there would be no sense of light and dark. So, how would people account for this warming and cooling? What kind of things would they attribute to that? Would they have a different idea of what a god might be? It'd be interesting if they came up with a way to write with some braille-like language, talk, whatever. It'd be interesting to see, to hear the stories that would come out of such a race, a species, to see what kind of things they attribute their god to. There would be no mention, I would bet, of anything relating to the concept of sight. Light would be unknown. There would be no talk of going into the light, of a great light, a warm, loving, beautiful, wondrous light, or whatever. Would there be any concept of outer space in a species that was totally blind? Just how would the world be different? And it also got me to thinking, people that are blind, who are born blind in this real world where people can see, are there blind people who do not believe in this concept of sight? Do they think that you're just making stuff up? That it's just something that they can't come to terms with or explain because they have no concept of it within themselves? And is that sense of not believing that kind of the same thing that a believer in God might have, in the sense that thinking that somebody else who has no awareness or perception of God can't see it, and therefore they just are blind to it because they don't have that sense? Is that the position that religious people are taking because of this sense that they have, whether it's just a manifestation of the brain, which is most likely the case, or there really is something out there, which I highly doubt? Do they attribute this sense of whatever it is that they consider to be a sense of God to be lacking in someone else, and therefore that's why they think this person doesn't believe because they can't see? Well, I think it's true the other way around, because atheists can see things that it seems like believers just either ignore or don't accept or can't comprehend. So it probably goes both ways. But it makes you wonder, just how far does belief extend? What is belief? And is there another sensory opportunity in this universe that we don't currently have that's outside of sight, smell, taste, touch, and sight? What was the way? There's five of them: taste, smell, sight, touch, and hearing. Is there something else that we don't have sensory input mechanisms to detect? I mean, we have instruments that allow us to detect things that we can't, like X-rays and infrared and ultraviolet and things, radio and things outside of the narrow spectrum that we can hear or see or sense, feel, heat, vibration. All of those things are kind of along the same lines. It's all energy, the electromagnetic spectrum. But is there something that we can't see or sense, that we don't know about, that nobody yet has the capability to detect? I don't know. I think probably not, but I don't know. There's weird things that I can't explain. Things that happen to me. I don't like to label them psychic phenomenon because that kind of puts it in the realm of the mystic. And I think everything that has any sort of manifestation in this physical realm has a scientific explanation, whether we know it yet or not. I mean, maybe it's just coincidence, but there's so many times when just little things happen where I think about it just before it happens, or I think about someone just before they call, or I wake up a minute before my alarm goes off. You know, weird little things. Or I look at something and think, if I don't move that, I'll never see it again, and so I move it. Or if I don't move it, I never see it again. I mean, that's happened to me. I listen to my little voice, the intuition, because I don't know what that's tapping into. There is something, and I think because there is a tremendous amount of communication that goes on between people subconsciously through gesture, body movements, things that we're not even aware of, but that our minds are processing. I mean, think of all the things that go on in our body that we're not even aware of. We don't have to think about digesting our food, it just does it. But our brain's there doing it, processing it, it's receiving and sending signals through the nervous system to control digestion, sexual reproduction, chemical generation in the brain, and the limbic system, the cardiovascular system, every system that exists in the body. Your liver's creating blood, your pancreas is excreting insulin, and your liver, your kidneys are cleaning out your blood, and your lungs and heart, they're doing their thing, and just, everything's in there. It's all working, but do we think about it? Are we aware of it? We're aware of our breathing when we pay attention to it. You can feel your heartbeat, but it's not like I'm thinking, okay, beat, 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 breathe, beat, beat. Okay, now digest that piece of meat. Okay, now, it's just, you couldn't process if you had to do all that on a conscious level. There is so much in the brain that's happening beyond our awareness. There's gotta be things that our brain is doing and sensing that we're not aware of. Like, how do some animals seem to detect when an earthquake's about to hit? I don't know. There's so many unanswered questions, but it's so fascinating to think of because I think one day we will be able to answer those questions, and that's the cool part.